Hello, everybody.
Howdy. If you're a Jehovah's Witness that has just clicked on this video, my wife and I would like to kindly ask you to stay with us as we develop this subject. For many, many years, Watchtower has been hiding their child abuse and pedophilia problem. And if you're patient enough with us, you will see how we will hopefully give evidence, or by way of asking questions, why certain things are just now seeming to come to light when this problem has been going on for decades. But before we do that, we want to look at Stephen Lett's broadcast 2 months ago. This is this is July 2015. So Stephen Lett's broadcast would have been in, I got to think backwards now, July?
I believe it was May.
May.
Yeah.
In May's broadcast.
But it appears that this might be a landmark decision for Jehovah's Witnesses, because we know that the world has basically been crying out and saying, get rid of the two-witness rule. Derek O'Hare has been saying, get rid of the two-witness rule and call the police.
Yeah. So, and what it really comes down to is that, from what I've been able to ascertain from Stephen Lett's broadcast, he's talking about the oneness and foregoing your personal rights and things like this. We've been able to go through and take those words out so that you can hear them again.
Just for unity.
Yeah, just for unity. And, anything negative towards the oneness is not proper. But yet now we have governing body member Tony Morris encouraging those victims of child abuse to contact the authorities. So when we put this all together, it really sounds like Watchtower is now going to start throwing their elders under the bus. And if you're a current Jehovah's Witness who has, sadly to say, been a victim of child abuse or pedophilia, or really any type of abuse, because even Tony Morris in his talk mentions emotional abuse. So it's not just child abuse. Now, I don't know if that was a slip of the tongue or what they call it, a Freudian slip. But in that broadcast, I'm hoping that you Jehovah's Witnesses would have caught that he talked about spiritual and emotional abuse. Because now you can take Tony Morris's words and use them against an elder who is trying to abuse you even emotionally. So I guess let's watch this first clip.
Okay.
Another indicator, we're willing to forego our so-called personal rights in order to pursue or advance oneness. Now, to illustrate this, a person who thinks too much of himself, he might think, well, it's my hair, my clothes. I have the right to dress or groom any way I want to. I don't care who likes it. Well, that may be true, but what does 1 Corinthians 10:23 say? It says all things are lawful, but not all things are advantageous. So they may not advance oneness. A person who doesn't think too much of himself will forego his right, even if he has a right, if exercising that right would be a negative toward oneness. Another way we can contribute to the oneness, rejecting false stories that are designed to separate us from Jehovah's organization. As an example, think about the apostate-driven lies and dishonesties that Jehovah's organization is permissive toward pedophiles. I mean, that is ridiculous, isn't it? If anybody takes action against someone who would threaten our young ones and takes action to protect our young ones, it's Jehovah's organization.
Okay, just to reiterate, notice he says that you need to reject false stories, and then he goes right into the apostate-driven lies. Like the apostates are the ones that are making up all these stories regarding the abuse problem that is within the Watchtower and Bible Tract Society. Now, the next clip we're going to show you comes from the 2015 District Convention, where I don't have the brother's name in front of me, but listen to what he says.
The final way that Jesus displayed a zeal for true worship is his deep respect for the arrangement of true worship that Jehovah saw fit to use at that time. Now think about it. Jesus could have reasoned, I'm the Son of God. And because of what the greedy merchandisers and their religious backers had done at the temple, I am justified to worship Jehovah apart from the temple arrangement. But as we know, he didn't do that, did he? And why didn't he do that? Because the temple was Jehovah's authorized arrangement at the time, and Jesus knew that God had not seen fit to replace it despite all of the abuses. So Jesus continued his worship at the temple despite the poor conduct of others. Likewise today, we can imitate Jesus by refusing to allow imperfections of others, hurt feelings that might occur to hinder our worship. Rather, we should zealously support pure worship by faithfully attending meetings and associating with the congregation, despite any abuses we might recognize.
So you must stick with God's organization even though there's a tremendous amount of abuse.
So he's basically admitting
there's an abuse problem.
Disputing what Let said, because Let said they're apostate-driven lies. Well, then this guy is saying, oh yeah, basically there is a problem, but you have to still worship at Jehovah's authorized, organization.
So Jehovah's Witnesses, let me illustrate it like this. This is hot. This is going to burn, and this is going to cause a tremendous amount of pain. But like he said, you must stick with it. Even if you see all the abuse, you must, at some point, Jehovah's Witnesses, you have to learn to pull away from the abuse. Because you're going to get burned, and it's going to cause irreprehensible or irreparable damage. Figure it out. Okay, now let's go on
with Tony Morris now.
And then hear how you can gain your freedom from just his words alone.
The governing body has also asked me to address another topic that I must say hits close to my heart, being a father who raised 2 boys. The subject is the abuse of children and the damaging effects this can have on such innocent victims. As an organization, we view all such abuse of children, whether physical, sexual, or emotional, as deplorable.
Another way we can contribute to the oneness, rejecting false stories that are designed to separate us from Jehovah's organization. As an example, think about the apostate-driven lies and dishonesties that Jehovah's organization is permissive toward pedophiles.
As you likely know, Jehovah's Witnesses take a stronger position than most on the scriptural inappropriateness of any form of immorality. However, to take advantage of innocent young ones is absolutely despicable. As a religious organization, we have taken a decisive stand against such behavior. It is our fervent desire to protect children from any kind of abuse. Our policy as an organization is that one professing to be a victim or his parents should never be discouraged from reporting the incident to the appropriate authorities.
You've taken a stronger position than most on any form of immorality? Really? If you're a Jehovah's Witness, you have this songbook. Get the original released copy, 2009. We take a stronger position than most on any form of immorality. Look at the back cover. Identify what this is right here. Okay? Just sit there and look at it. If you think it's a penis, and then say, oh no, that Watchtower would not do that, then ask why they changed the cover. The back page. Ask why they changed the back cover. This was the original printing with the penis. They got caught doing something immoral. Okay? Now, in all of Watchtower's benevolent righteousness, August 1st, 2013, come out with this Watchtower. Pornography, harmless or toxic? Open up to page 3. Study this man. Look at his book bag. Look at the edge of the book bag that's attached to the strap. And then you tell me what that is. Oh, see? They take a stronger position, but yet they put another penis in that picture. They take a stronger position. June 1st, 2014. You remember this one, God's view of smoking? If you focus your eyes right across here in the smoke, it's faint, but it's there. There's an F, U, there's a faint blue C, and there's a K. Oh yeah, Watchtower certainly has taken a stronger position on immorality than most. No, they have not. This is a bold-faced lie. If you think that was the first time, you Jehovah's Witnesses that have been associated with the organization for decades, go get your Greatest Man book. Look at story number 91. Here's the picture. Jesus resurrecting Lazarus. If you look right here in the rocks, the word sex is spelt out. So for Tony Morris to get up here and say that we have taken a stronger position than most on any form of immorality, then why are they subliminally polluting your mind with immoral images and immoral words? Because Watchtower has a problem with immorality, and it goes right along with this child sex abuse or abuse of any type, as Tony Morris alludes to here.
Well, it's interesting how they say they don't discourage anyone from contacting the authorities, but they don't encourage them either. And, this is 2015. Why didn't they do this back in 2002, 13 years ago?
Well, what happened back in 2002, Kim?
Well, if you remember right, Barbara Anderson was on Dateline, and they did a Dateline thing about child abuse within the Witness organization.
Yeah, and in fact, I remember that day specifically because my wife and I were at an assembly, and the brother comes on during about one of the last concluding announcements or something, and he said that there's a program coming on Dateline tonight. Do not watch it because this is put on by the apostates. How come, Tony Morris, if you've taken a stronger position than most on any form of immorality, why didn't you start doing that back in 2002? So for what, 14, 15 years?
13?
13 years? You've been hiding it. These are not just apostate-generated lies. These are lies that you've been hiding, and you've been deflecting the problem over to the apostates. And now it appears that you're almost beginning to accept responsibility.
Almost.
Almost. Because you had the brother during the 2015 convention saying you must worship at Jehovah's approved temple or organization despite any abuses you might see. Wow. And then you got Tony Morris talking like he's talking now.
Well, I've got a question then. We've got the recent Shepherd the Flock book, the Secret Elders book. And on page 131, it's interesting because under child abuse, it says you should immediately call the branch office for direction if you learn of an accusation of child abuse, regardless of the age of the victim now or at the time of the alleged abuse, even if it occurred before the alleged perpetrator's baptism.
But if it wasn't a problem, if these were apostate-generated lies, then why is there a section in Shepherding the Flock of God book covering this very subject?
So are you elders going to have to take your pencil now and write in the margin and take your little white out, and redo this? Well, also, he says any form of immorality, talking like it's still a sin.
Yeah, when it's a crime.
Now, what's interesting is in the Flock book on paragraph 19, page 131, it says, child abuse is a crime. Never suggest to anyone that they should not report an allegation of child abuse to the police or other authorities.
But we do know
Yes.
that how the elders work in a situation like this.
How they get around that.
How they get around that. Because if you were a parent going to an elder, because your child was abused sexually or inappropriately by an elder, you would go to another elder and say, you know, brother so-and-so was inappropriately touching my child. I'm going to have to report this to the authorities. The elder you're talking to is going to say, well, you know, let us investigate into this first. And then you might come back and say, no, I'm going to the authority. This crime has to be reported. And then the elder's going to say, well, you know, brother, if you do, we can disfellowship you for apostasy because you're attacking your brothers. And that's how the elder body gets around this whole subject of preventing the victim or the victim's parents from going to the authorities, because they threaten you with disfellowshipping, not just disfellowshipping, but disfellowshipping of the worst kind, being labeled as an apostate. Because all of you know that when you carry this label as an apostate, there's no way that you're ever going to make it back into this organization again.
And we know this because it happened in our old congregation.
Absolutely.
When the mom and the daughters brought this accusation, you know, to the elders, they were threatened. And I mean, it got so bad that...
This is right from the horse's mouth. This is not secondhand information that we're relaying here, friends, Jehovah's Witnesses. So please, listen to what he said. Report the abuse. And if an elder tries to threaten you with disfellowshipping, you just say, hey, Tony Morris's talk trumps you. I'm going to the authorities.
Governing body trumps elders every time.
Governing body trumps elders every time. So it really appears what we might begin to see here are that the governing body is finally going to start throwing these elders under the bus, because these elders cannot handle their quote-unquote God-given authority.
But it's a shame, you know, that this is a little too late.
Too late.
You know, for decades, all these victims, you know, have gone through, you know, horrible agony and such emotional problems because of the abuse.
Yeah.
So,
well, you know what I would like to see before we get back on to more of Tony the Morris here, I wonder if us ex-Jehovah's Witnesses can sue Watchtower for the abuse that we've endured. Now think about this. We were told, we were convinced that we were preaching the good news of the kingdom. We were told, we were convinced that we were doing God's will. And now we find out that we've been working for free for a publishing company. I wonder if we can put some sort of class action suit together against Watchtower and pay us back for all of for decades of wages working for free for a publishing company. Now, here's the thing, Watchtower. You know, I'm not just, you know, speaking off the cuff here. You have to remember, it wasn't too long ago when Watchtower Bible Tract Society said, oh, brothers, we have a new arrangement. We're going to be placing our literature on a donation type basis. And the reason you were doing that is because the IRS was beginning to investigate you for tax evasion. Because you should have been paying taxes on the literature that you were selling off of our free labor. Okay.
So we were actually part of a fraud.
We were fraudulently being used as slave labor working for the Watchtower Bible Tract Society because they had us convinced we were doing God's will. It's got nothing to do with God's will. It's got everything to do with placing literature for the Watchtower. See, the property owner of this book is Watchtower Bible Tract Society of Pennsylvania. Publishers. Watchtower Bible Tract Society of New York, International Bible Students Association. You know what? I'll bet if enough of us really put a concentrated effort together, I bet we could come up with a really good, reasonable class action suit. Because after all, Watchtower, you've got all our publishing records and all the time that we've all spent in the door-to-door work.
Well, I was going to say...
Isn't that abuse?
I was going to say, calm down. I was going to say, I've actually gotten several emails from different people saying that they think we do have a class action suit, you know, and that we do have a chance of winning.
Because we were fraudulently being misled, fraudulently being told that we're doing God's will, and we're not. You're not Jehovah's Witnesses. You're doing the will of a publishing company. That is another form of abuse.
But I'm sure trying to find a lawyer for that,
Good luck.
They would say, oh, that's voluntary.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
All right, some more with Tony the Morris?
Yep.
All right.
While child abuse has been perpetrated earthwide in many cultures for thousands of years, it is only in the past 40 years or so that the magnitude and the extent of the problem has become better known. This is because governmental agencies are now determined to take a more active interest in this problem. Laws were enacted requiring medical and other professionals to report cases to the authorities when they became aware of them. Prior to that time, many governmental, educational, and religious organizations were somewhat naive about the magnitude and the complexity of the situation. Others knew of the problem and covered it up.
Talking about themselves again.
My goodness. Others knew about it and covered it up. Again, we go back to the Dateline special. It's on YouTube. It's on the internet, Jehovah's Witnesses. Type it in. You'll see back in 2002, Watchtower knew of the magnitude of the sexual child abuse within Watchtower, and they covered it up. And they covered it up by saying, don't watch it because it's put on by apostates. And it's funny because within a week after that programming aired, I never did watch it, but a week after that program aired, I was in field service with an elder from a congregation, and he watched it, and he was telling me that this is a problem within Watchtower. There's a lot of child abuse, and it is hidden and it's covered up. So that, again, comes right from the mouth of an elder. These guys know, these elders know of the magnitude, but because they're trying to preserve the squeaky clean image of the Watchtower Bible Tract Society, you know, Jehovah's pure organization, it ain't going to work no more because it's being exposed. And now Watchtower, in a very real way, is sacrificing Tony Morris to saying these words, admitting to the problem.
Well, what's interesting is even to this day, there is several witnesses that, we keep hearing these stories, how they actually deny this is a problem within the organization.
Yeah.
And they will not believe the news because it's apostate lies. And so they're totally in denial. But yet here's Tony Morris saying,
well,
basically admitting.
They can't deny it anymore, can they? Because Tony the Morris is right here speaking about it. In fact, there's a Caleb cartoon coming up very shortly. And what this cartoon is about is it's going to start teaching children how to identify inappropriate behavior from an adult. They're going to be talking about child sex abuse. Not so much in a cartoon, but this is what the cartoon is for. So if it wasn't a problem, Jehovah's Witnesses, and all of those that have accused apostates from making up and spreading these type of lies, then what is this all about?
Well, why don't we play just a little clip from that Caleb
Let's
cartoon?
do that.
And here we go again with the dark, scary, demon figure, phantom-looking things.
Well, here again, Jehovah's Witnesses, if you don't think for a minute that Watchtower is not putting subliminal images in their creativity, when you get to the Caleb and Sophia part when they're at the chalkboard, put the camera on pause. Relax your mind. And then look at the images that come up on any portion of those chalkboards. Now I know we're going to say, I know subliminal images is subjective. People can see what they want. After all, this is Caleb's and Sophia's chalkboard, granted. But Sophia and Caleb don't have the artistic ability to draw the images that are embedded in that chalkboard.
Yeah.
They don't have the ability to draw like that. So, all right, let's show a scene.
If someone tells you something that makes you feel uncomfortable or scares you, what do?
I'm not sure, but that's weird. Stop.
Very good. Tell them to stop it, and you tell mom and daddy. No matter what someone tells you.
So I think in summary, I think we pretty much covered everything that we wanted to say.
Well, the biggest thing that Jehovah's Witnesses, you have to begin to realize that this is a landmark decision, because right from your governing body member, Tony Morris, is telling you, report it to the authorities. And if the elders try to prevent that, then hey, governing body member trumps elder. With the work that my wife and I have been doing in with some of the other apostates in the XJW community, we do know that the Watchtower Bible Tract Society has not been in compliance to all laws as they relate to different countries around the world. A lot of it has to do with the child protection documentation. And so there's a tremendous amount of pressure on the Watchtower Bible Tract Society in this regard from other countries around the world. And we feel that this is one of the reasons why Watchtower is coming out and kind of admitting that they've got a problem, because they have not done what they should have been doing all along to protect children.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you for watching our video, and thank you all for everything, your emails, comments, and we hope you have a good evening.
Bye.
My only prayer is, if I can't be there, Lord, protect me.